Hey everybody, good morning, it's Jillian. So yeah, after yesterday, after yesterday of being able being able to explain that maybe go lay down. Hi sugar. Hi sugar. I know, I see you. Being able to explain the fact that we, yes, are in an intentional synthetic universe, and America has only been around for about 300 years. We are the experimental country. They did experiments on us even 300 years ago, and then we have been part of human experimentation for the last however many years, right? 300 years. And we finally got it right. And there's going to be collateral damage, yes, because now the experiments are over. They don't really need to use politics, religion, and science, so that's why there's such a circus with our politics. That's why religions are kind of being to the wayside, and science is really taking facts and spinning a perception based upon, you know, what your belief systems are. And it's easy to spin science in any direction if you think you're going to die anyway. So if they can give you a little bit of pleasure between now and the end of your life, you'll be happy with that. I mean, that's currently what's going on. Is if you see even minor or major changes in between your birth and your death and everything, then you'll be fine with that. And they've already seen it. You've proven to them that they can do minor and major changes to your genome, and you think it's like the greatest thing next to sliced bread. And that is a reality. That is a hologram of reality that is very easy to create. And it's like taking a side, because who made people to now want to get a different protocol? It's the enemy. It's, the Rockefeller medicine. It's, all the different, the doctors, the horrible doctors, and the horrible naturopathics and the homeopathics, but they're all taught by the same system that created this divide and conquer type of thing. And so when you're abused, whether at the micro level through your genome or at the macro level because somebody is doing some kind of MK Ultra trauma-based programming, at the macro level, whether it's abuse or whether it's like micro level abuse, which is in the home, or macro level abuse, where it's like these huge incidents that happen that shock you, it traumatize you. It forces you to take a side because you feel pain. Like, why the hell do I feel pain? I didn't feel pain before, and now I'm seeing death and destruction. Oh my God, find the enemy. And then this whole thing with Satan versus Jesus, good versus evil. And so right now I'm still in that duality phase in my book. But I'm thinking, like, I don't want to necessarily get rid of that thought process in my book, but I'm going to offer then another perspective that maybe this was, like, I think at the end of the book, I'm going to say, now try this on, that the last 300 years we have been a major experiment, which I've already said, yeah, we're part of a grand experiment. But now we have to realize that they have made too many humans. And now it's time to scale down the experiment. They don't need as many mice. And they're giving you guys the choice to either stay with the current programming of the experiment programming, or this is where Jilly Juice comes in. Sugar! Or this is where Jilly Juice comes in, where you have the ability now to rise above all of that programming. Because I'm telling you, it's not easy to break people from a programming that they have been around their whole life, that has been reinforced by grandparents, by aunts, by uncles, by sisters, by brothers, by your colleagues. When your colleagues think that antibodies are healing, how the hell do you break out of that program and say, okay, well, antibodies maybe not be healing. Maybe they could be the reason why we're dealing with cancer, disease, and chronic illness. Maybe that's the reason why we have such diversity in the population, because the antibodies are causing different mutations to different parts of our genome. Okay, so it's not going to be easy to deprogram 6,500,000,000 if their true intent is to have 500 million on this earth, which I think it is. Okay, because Behavior Sync, John B. Calhoun, started off with a certain amount of mice. Maybe start off with 10 or 15 mice. And that little colony that he held his experiments in was only able to handle, 3,000, right? But it never reached 3,000. The population did have a population boom during the tenure of his experiments, and it reached 2,200, but it never reached 3,000. We're kind of in the same boat as that colony. We're at 7 billion. It's time to scale it down, and it has been. But now the powers that be that are running these experiments want to accelerate the decline of the population, and so they're helping Mother Nature take away all the imbalances. Because I really want to chronicleize even my thought process, which is no different than all your thought process. You want to look for an enemy, you want to look to blame someone. I believe me, I understand. And really, when it comes down to it, it's the fact that you're part of an experiment, and now you have different tools at your disposal to deprogram or stay with the current programming. And so, but I want to show how easy it is to be in that kind of duality. Because here's the thing. This is when it comes to good and evil. And this is what, the two guys that were double teaming me on Facebook, that Robert Jasso and that guy Adam Francis, or Francis Adam, whatever his name is, when I talked about how, good and evil, they're part of this duality. There's no such thing as good and evil. Because good can just be as easily destroyed as evil. You just destroy the person who is perpetrating that perception relative to your perception. Okay? Good and evil doesn't even exist because you can easily make it non-existent. And what is good and evil? I mean, that's all relative to perception. Then he's like, oh, well, he's asking me these loaded questions. Well, you think rape is evil? I think rape is horrible. I think rape is part of an imbalance. A balanced person would not rape somebody. A balanced person would not bully somebody. A balanced person would not steal. A balanced person would not cause harm to somebody else intentionally. There's collateral damage, which is the unintentional causing harm to people, places, and things. And that's where, the court of law has to be like, okay, was this an intentional damage or was it collateral damage? And that's where that's manslaughter versus murder one type of thing, right? And that's all based upon the court of law. But the theory around collateral damage and intentional damage is the fact that sometimes you have to do things to save yourself, even if you're the aggressor, right? And sometimes the intended target doesn't always, isn't the only thing that gets affected. Collateral damage is children in divorce. Two parents that can't seem to get it together have to then go and have two different households. The kids are now experiencing collateral damage. They are collateral damage or whatever. But they weren't the intended targets. It was the two parents that could not figure out their situation, and the kids now have to reap the unintended consequences. But, if you know about divorce and you know what it's going to do to the kids, and you still do it, then it's like, that there is an intention behind it, and the kids are going to be collateral damage because they weren't really the intended targets, but they just happened to have to deal with the fallout. Okay? So it's like, it's difficult to get this point across because everybody wants to take a side, good and evil, Democrat, Republican, Rockefeller versus holistic, whatever, which is the same thing. Rockefeller owns holistic, all right? But this false dichotomy and false duality, because even life and death, because remember how I used to justify how, well, we don't want to take a side, but the only side you take is life and death. That's my justification. But you know what? Then I realize that yes, when you're walking down the street, the ants that you step on are collateral damage for you to get from point A to B. When you have to go and kill your food, okay, yes, the collateral damage is the fact that animal now has to be in your stomach getting processed. But the Indians figure out a way. They prayed to the spirits and said, thank you, spirit of the bison and the buffalo for being our food source, for being our shelter source, for being our clothing source. Like, they knew how to use the land to their benefit without waste. Fraud, waste, and abuse, right? And so, we need to come back to that on some level. But the amount of imbalances in our society, people are just killing for no freaking reason. When you're planting a garden, these are for all the vegans and vegetarians. When you're planting a garden, you're like, oh, I don't want to kill anything. You're killing worms as you're digging and tilling the land. You're killing bugs. Oh, but no, the bugs are not as important as a cow. The bugs are not as important as, as a sheep or as a pig. And I'm sorry, but who would you say? You're trying to till the garden. There's collateral damage of ants and bugs, and maybe you're uprooting a nest, a mole. Okay, so, this whole thing, well, I care about life. Then if you really care about life, you don't want to kill anything, then you have to be the one to sacrifice yourself, because you can't move and do anything, lest you might upset some other person's life or some animal's life. This is the programming and then the whole hypocrisy of the world that we live in today, is the fact that we have so many factions that are that don't understand each other because of the different biochemistries, and they've been programmed and reprogrammed and reprogrammed upon program. And so it's like this overlay of programs that now it's become like this jumble of babble, and then people are just talking out of their ass. Hypocrisy all over the place. And so now let's bring it back to square one. Death is going to happen. Life is going to happen. You don't have to die. And, for you to live, little worms in your body are going to have to be released into the sewer system. Little bacteria are going to have to be released in the sewer system when you're doing waterfalls, so that way you can live. Okay? When you're building a house, yes, there's going to be animals uprooted. When you're tilling a garden, yes, you're going to be killing worms. You're going to be killing bugs. You're going to be uprooting. You're going to be displacing animals that would have been there if it wasn't for your fucking garden. For the vegans and vegetarians that think they're so enlightened because they don't kill anything. Bullshit. When you're doing detoxes, guess what? You're killing yourself, vegans and vegetarians. When you're doing your turmeric and honey and all of your different antibiotic protocols, guess what? You're killing the microbiome full of life. You know what antibiotics are? You know what turmeric and diatomaceous earth and bentonite clay and all the different, zeolite for all of your heavy metal poisoning, or the radiation? I don't want to kill anything. I'm a vegan and vegetarian. I don't believe in eating meat. And you're slowly killing yourself, killing your microbiome with all of your detoxes, all your pills, your powders, your supplements. I mean, the hypocrisy is insane around here. So that's why we can't ever take a side. It's about balance. And that's what I've come to learn just through my journey on Jilly Juice, is that yes, you're going to peel back the layers of programming, which is taking the side. And if you don't change your politics on J-Juice in some way, shape, or form, where you stop taking a side, whether it's Jesus versus Jehovah, whether it's Jesus versus Satan, whether it's Democrat versus Republican, then you fail to understand balance and understand Jilly Juice, because you still fall into the false dichotomy. Love versus hate. It's two sides of the same coin. That's why I say those that are still on J-Juice, still buying into the false dualities, the false dichotomies, which is basically everything. If you can't speak about balance and not point out a specific thing, which is like, oh yeah, clean food versus unclean food. What the fuck is that? When you are putting a judgment, a type of adjective on something where you wouldn't do this because it's this. So if this food is unclean, that means that this food is clean. When you're making that kind of statement, where something is better over the other, and it's not about balance, then and you're making this correlation equals causation because you ate this food, now you have this, this, and this, which means that you're saying that this food is bad. You have failed to understand what food is. You're still dealing with imbalances in your body, mind, and spirit. And I'm dealing with right now my own recalibration. I'm going through a healing, a major healing that I never thought I expected to be dealing with. Okay, and the temperature rises in my body, the hot flashes, and all of that. But my digestive system is kind of is going. I'm not drinking my J juice right now. I probably should, but I really don't feel like it right now. I feel like I need to figure out, some stuff. But I think I'm also going through another level of healing, and it's affecting a lot of different things. I'm not feeling bloated. I'm not feeling bloated at all. It's just that, well, I don't want to really say. But why wouldn't I want to say, Julie? Well, my poop is like really hard. But then I am eating meat, and maybe I need to lay off some meat and balance it out with other stuff. So yeah. So that's what I'm probably looking at right now is I'm going to lay off the meat a bit because I'm eating a lot of meat. And it's good. I mean, I don't feel bloated. I don't feel like, whatever. Is it affecting part of my, I don't think it's I think that the meat that I'm eating is definitely getting me to a different level of something because I'm taking those fatty acid, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals and processing it. But it's interesting that, but I don't feel bloated. I don't feel like I'm backed up or anything. That's the weird thing is that I want to poop every day, but I don't really have to. And I'm just like, what the hell? I'm supposed to poop every day. So I don't know. So I'm going through my own, trying to figure out what's normal because I'm, going through my own evolution, another level of evolution. Okay. And so I might just stay off the meat for a bit and see where that does and just kind of stick to some different stuff. And I'll save the steak for my husband. So, but I'll tell you that the steaks are so good. They're so good. But it's digesting it and having it pass right now through my changes in my system is what's a little bit different. So, okay, I can come to terms with that. All right. And that's the thing is that you guys are going to have to be aware of the indicators in your body, mind, and spirit. Now, I'm not saying that meat is bad, but it's about a balance. Okay. It's balance. I'm doing a lot of meat and not a lot of everything else. So I'm going to start, diversifying more, or have less of the meat and just more of whatever. But I'm not even drinking J juice right now. So I probably should be drinking J juice and doing the meat, but I'm really not because I really don't feel like drinking J juice right now. So it's like, so I'm going through my own journey at this level. But I want you guys to see the hypocrisy when you take a side. I want you to see the hypocrisy when you take a side when you are not speaking from the point of balance. Okay? And when you're saying one thing is better over the other and not looking at balance. And when you are taking on a political thought process like being a vegan vegetarian because you don't believe in killing things, but yet you're taking detoxes that are killing your microbiome, yet you're killing the bugs and the worms when you're tilling your garden. Okay? You have to see that there is definitely hypocrisy rampant everywhere in all the different spiritual, religion, science, and politics. And so that's why I've broken down our world into politics, religion, and science, because they all promote false dichotomies. They all promote some kind of savior or some kind of evil one. They're all part of the archetypes. That's the programming of our society, is those archetypes that I mentioned the other day. Where there's 17 characters and then 17 or a bunch of different symbols and words that represent, different settings and different thought processes and different color schemes mean this, and that, And so when you live in a holographic universe, this is what Eden Ray, she gave me this new word, hologram, because it's true. Hologram is a false reality. Okay? And that's exactly what you're living in. So it's in a false reality that's contrived, that is giving you the words to say and the things to think about and the goals and dreams that you think you have. Oh yes, when I ask somebody that's in the Matrix, what's your goals and dreams? Oh, to be a fireman, to be a policeman, to get a degree, to get this. I'm like, why? How's that a golden dream? Oh, because it's what's been fed to that person. Oh, to make a lot of money. What are you going to do with it? Buy me a boat. Buy me a this or buy me that. Buy me useless shit that's going to sit somewhere at some point and collect dust and rust. Okay? That's the world that you guys have given allowance to, is somebody giving you a reason to live, a reason to make goals. Nobody has given you a blank slate. Okay, now go create something, because they've given you the words and they give you the propaganda. And that's what teachers do. They don't just teach you math and English with no propaganda. No, they teach you math and English with the propaganda attached to it, and more propaganda when it comes to social studies, when it comes to perception science, when it comes to, world history and U.S. history and state history and whatever other subject matters that they want to go and shape your brain and your kid's brain to then fit as another widget in the system of contrivedness. Okay? So what if we're able to take all the words that they've given us and redirect the story? And we're not playing from this for and against, this duality of like Democrat versus Republican, the racist versus non-racist, Satan versus Jehovah, Satan versus Jesus, Moses versus Jewish. I mean, I'm not saying it's Jewish, versus, but you know what I mean? Like, those archetypes are so, like, it's so obvious now. When you're doing the J Juice and you realize what archetypes are, all the characters in a novel, in a story, in an allegory, in a Bible, you know how many times that Bible has been rewritten to fit how they want to program your body, mind, and spirit? You know how many times, how many pastors out there and how many parishioners and how many priests and how many, rabbis out there have been programmed to make you think that there is this good and evil thing? Wait for the Messiah. You are the Messiah. Wait for the second coming of Christ. You are the first coming of Christ. You are the person that has the complete control over your body, mind, and spirit. There is nobody to fight against. There's no battle out there. It's all a fucking illusion. But it's easy to trigger all of your damages within, because when you're damaged within, everything's going to trigger you. A word is going to trigger you. So when I say, when you're fighting somebody else's battle that has absolutely no effect, that has absolutely nothing to do with you, you're damaged within. When you have been affected by someone who abused you, you have the ability to recalibrate. You don't need to react to what somebody else is doing and perpetrate that and then put yourself in the same situation. Yes, it's going to happen when you are growing up and you've been programmed to be a specific way, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally. And then you make mistakes, you put yourself in a position to be harmed. Yeah, that's going to happen. Many of you have stories of rape stories, date rape and roofied and domestic violence within your relationships, and then you got out of that and then you get back into it again. Well, what the hell? Well, what if you didn't have to, experience that pain ever, and then when someone does experience that pain, it doesn't trigger you and to be like, oh my God, and you're able to move on from that without trying to get justice for whatever it was that something has done to you. Hey, Cassie, what if? What if justice wasn't the first and foremost because you've been wronged? You've perceived you've been wronged. What if you didn't have to react to somebody else's plight and get justice for somebody else? See, that's what the imbalances are in our world, is we are reacting to things that have nothing to do with us. We are assuming that guy out there is our savior when he's just a dude who's just having fun manipulating your triggers. I mean, Eric Trump, or one of the Trumps, wrote a book about trigger, but he did it from the perspective of, I'm sure, the left, because he's from the right. But yes, every single pastor, leader, authority, religion, politics, science have found a way to program you, to program triggers within you, to force you to take a side. My mother told me, everyone should be raised in religion so that way you have something to rebel against. She told me this. These are the things that I remember that my mother said to me that for whatever reason I remember what she said, and this wasn't like, recently. This wasn't like 5 or even 10 years ago. This is like not 50 because I'm only 46, but this was like maybe 30 years, 20 years ago that she told me this stuff. Everybody should be raised with a religion because that way they have something to rebel against. That speaks volumes in the psychotherapy world. That speaks volumes in the lawyer world, in the justice world. That speaks volumes in the educational world. And so J Juice will allow you to deprogram from all this bullshit, but you got to stay on it. You can't just do J Juice. Like, I'm going to do a little bit cup here, a little cup there, da, da, da. And then you're still falling into the same duality, good versus evil. The guy yesterday could not even acknowledge that rape is really imbalance. He wanted me to say that rape was evil. I think anything that's imbalanced, I wouldn't necessarily call it evil. I would call it's an imbalance. And we don't have to breed children that way. We don't have to breed a society that way, but we have been. Nobody is born evil. They've been programmed within the genome, within their nature and nurture has programmed someone to have these triggers and to then act out their triggers, and some on a grander scale than others. But nobody's evil. No person is evil. But that guy steadily wanted me to say that rape was evil. I think rape is horrible. Would I use the word evil? Because that's such baggage. Because then someone that doesn't do rape is good, but they could be doing other things like, plagiarism or stealing or whatever. Okay? And so, yeah, you don't do rape, but why is that even, why would that even come up as even a word in our society? Why acknowledge its existence? Why does it need to exist to begin with? And that's the whole point of this for and against, is the fact that when you are against something, you promote it because now it comes out of your mouth. Now you've acknowledged its existence. And why does it exist? Because we have an imbalanced society. And so you wonder why now they've brought forth the surface all these different pedophiles, the pedophile network, the Epstein logs, all these different things. It's not like organic. It wasn't like, oh, wow, finally we're going to get justice. No, it's a reason. It's getting you guys all triggered again, all divided, all just going after each other, and you're promoting at the same time. A society that doesn't have that kind of programming would never even speak about it. It would never come up. But the fact that these things come up means that somebody is breeding this into the community. And you, a person that's against it, could be very well be breeding it in your own family and not even know it. That's where I saw the hypocrisy a couple of years ago when people were talking about the pedophiles. And I'm like, just have your kids do the J Juice, do the J Juice, do the J Juice, please, because you don't know what you're breeding into your kids. The fact that you're against it, your kids could be for it. Your kids could be it. They could be an actual example of it. Because what have you done to change their biochemistry? How do you know that you're not breeding that into your children in some way, shape, or form? And that's the thing, is that, and so how do I say that to somebody who is so against something? And so it's part of their whole daily routine. That's all they talk about is human trafficking and pedophilia and all this other stuff. And they have little kids next to them. And their kids are listening to this. You don't think that exposure to your activism is not going to impact them in some way, shape, or form, influence them in some way? So that's the thing, is bringing up the things that you hate and bringing up the things that you love is fine, bringing up the things that you love, but is it something that is balanced? And so when you bring things that you hate, then you're promoting it on the equal playing field. You're promoting it just as much as you're promoting the things that you love. So I don't know. I just, I have to figure out how I'm going to write this book, my perspective. Right now, I'm in the perspective of duality. I may just keep to that and then say, you know what? I wrote this book between, I don't know, March, April I wrote these sections from March, April to October 4th, and now October 5th, I had this epiphany about good and evil, and this is my mindset now. And this is an example of how evolution can happen like that, and that will influence your thought process. It will influence everything, and it'll have things come together. And I'm telling you, evolution can be that quick. Or what you've been taught is evolution is like over millions and millions and millions of years. That's the freaking propaganda about the dinosaurs to the monkeys to the humans, right? But evolution can happen within a week. When you finally do the waterfalls and you change your biochemistry, oh my God, you will see things for what they really are, because you're not programmed by those damn antibodies that are attacking you, and your body's trying to fight it. Now you're able to sit down and just have some clarity of thought and be like, what the hell am I supporting? What the hell am I focused on every single day? Because what you give your energy to is what it's going to be, what's going to come to life. And many of you bring life to things that you hate so much. And that's the hypocrisy. We can't stop what goes on down the street. We can't stop it. We can't stop what goes on in another country. We can't stop what goes on in our own family members that live with us. We can't stop them from their belief system. We can't stop them destroying themselves with whatever. But we can take care of ourselves. We can be the example. We can be the one to show people that, yes, you have the ability to change your biochemistry and the programming and reverse all the things that you hate within your own body, mind, and spirit. Because you know you have many things that you hate because it's being projected outward, and then you're blaming other people for your situation. When really you should be blaming yourself. Not Rockefeller, not Bill Gates, not anyone else out there, but you should be blaming yourself. Everyone out there like Rockefeller and Gates, they just need to be balanced out correctly. But they're not the enemy. And that's a hard thing that I had to come to terms with. That nobody out there that I've deemed the enemy, Dr. Fauci, the doctors aren't the enemy out there either. They're just thinking they're doing something good. But I'm going to show you the light on both sides. The doctors do deal with antibodies. At some point, you don't want to rely on a doctor. At some point, you don't want to be revering doctors because they deal with antibodies. That's a destruction of your body, mind, and spirit. If you say you want to live, why would you then deal with antibodies and buy them and induce them on a continuous basis? But they're not evil. No, doctors are not evil. They're just misinformed, and they get paid well to be misinformed. When you get paid well to be misinformed, you're not going to want to get rid of that political thought process because you get paid very well to be misinformed. It doesn't pay you to say, oh wow, my profession sucks, I need to go and find something different. No, when they've been pigeonholed in a nice area, gated community, with a Maserati or with, I don't know, a Lincoln town car, and your kids are all part of this community, their social standing and everything, you know, they belong to the best preschool and the best kindergarten school, they have the best of everything, and they're dealing with the death and the antibodies, you really think they're going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to give up my profession as a doctor? No, it would take a very strong doctor to say, you know what, I'm giving up my license, I'm done with the AMA, I'm going to go now be a pauper and do Jilly Jim. So, you just got to understand the world that you're dealing with. Those that get paid a shit ton of money are dealing with the death process on a maximum level, on a mass level. All right. There's my speech for the day. I'm still figuring out how I'm going to write this book, but I think I'm going to do that revelation towards the end. Still stick with the whole duality, and then towards the end be like, what if? And that'll be the October surprise in the Jilly Juice book, my newest book. All right. Bye.